One of the last classes that you take here at Eastern Arizona College, part of our degree, is 201. And 201 is about how computers are used within organizations, how computers are used in businesses. And it's a really important link, especially for all of us that are very technical. We go out and do a job and we can focus on that job and really never understand how it's being used in the business or how important it is in the business. One of the things I mentioned in the 170-100 class is that you want to look at what the business is doing and realizing that there's sets of data or information or systems that you work with that are more important to the organization than others. And if you're on those things, if you're helping with those things, you're going to get more pay. So we're going to take a look at information systems here. In other words, how does this really work in business? How do organizations really use these things? And this really is the terminology and what they think of. And so they, meaning the regular average person, what they think of when they're dealing with computers, right? So first thing to know is, what is a system? It's actually a set of connected parts and procedures that leads to something being accomplished. So let's adapt that to the real world. Let's say that you're selling smartphones. You're a company that sells smartphones and the product is being built in China and now you need to get it to the US. Well, you're going to have a system that has all these connected parts and procedures, meaning the regulations we as people follow. Sometimes that's codified into the system itself, and sometimes it's just don't do that, do this instead. And then that way, what you can do is you pull up on your dashboard, this is how many parts, we're low on these parts, oh, we need more production of these parts, because you're looking at the parts that make the smartphone. And then from there, you're looking at taking the smartphone, checking it, making sure it's good, packaging it, and shipping it. Right, so that's a system. That's an entire system of how to get that done. And there's more pieces I'm sure that I'm missing in there. So when we look at that kind of system, what is involved? Well, you have to have the technology. You have to have the hardware, you have to have the software, you have to have the data. The technology is what makes it so that you can monitor all that. And then of course you have to have the people that get that work done. You can't just have this technology working without the human resources and talent that you find in programmers, database administrators, systems analysts, security specialists, and many more. All those people keeping the technology going. And then you've got to deal with procedures, the sequence of steps that's taken to reach the ultimate goal. So what are our procedures for getting there? We have the technology, we have the people, and we have the procedures. And any one of those things can be a weakness or a strength. So what types of information systems are actually out there? Well, there's transaction processing, or TPS, transaction processing systems. And they're running credit cards, payments, online purchases, they're transactions. This person paid, this is their account information, I'm going to go over to that account, I'm going to grab that money, bring it back over here, transaction processing. Then you've got management information systems. Enterprise resource planning, that is a big term that is used so much. Enterprise resource planning is basically a large system that takes a look at the resources, that includes people and buildings and all of it, computing, everything, looks at the resources you have and helps you manage and plan how that works. Our student information system is part of an ERP solution. And you can actually go out and get a job. Geez, I'm trying to think of the name of it. I'll think of it later, but you can get a job just working with enterprise resource planning, being a programmer for that, tech support person for that, selling an ERP system, because they're huge systems and they're very particular. So you have to learn how each one works. There's obviously conceptual ideas that cross boundaries, but when you're dealing with it and how you deal with it is different. So management uses ERP, anything that helps them manage things, for instance, like a decision support system or a customer relationship management system. These are all really large systems that help them to get the business work done. And it's evolved over time, and businesses have disappeared from not switching and using these things or not being able to get the systems they need when they need them. And then an expert system, which really is applying some artificial intelligence to help you delve into the complex problems of, for instance, if we just take EAC and say students. So if let's look at our student enrollment over the last 20 years and then try to flag what caused the increases and decreases. Just that alone is a huge concept in trying to figure out as a person. And we tend to oversimplify things. If you haven't seen the movie Moneyball, you really should. Moneyball is basically the idea of using data to figure out what your baseball team should look like. And it transforms sports across everything. All the sports you watch was transformed by a couple of guys that were like, you know what, to win a game, you need these things to happen. So therefore, we need these people that will complement each other instead of just going out and trying to find the best person. And they were laughed at and ridiculed for it. And of course, then they ended up with a massively winning team. And then everybody went, maybe there's something to that. Now, they didn't have an expert system. What they had was a bunch of data and an expert who was looking at it, trying to figure out where it all fit. And so trying to duplicate that, because that's a real special talent, is one of the things that they're pushing artificial intelligence in to make them think like we do and try to decipher all these complex systems. All right, let's move to the next topic. So if you were in the 100 class, then this is a topic that we kind of explore historically, robotics and artificial intelligence. And I think it's great that they have this in here. It's not really hard to remember this information. It is, all this is a bunch of information, but it's not like saying, well, how does the subnet fit in with your network IP address? What does that do? That's a more complex problem. Artificial intelligence has been around since computers, before the computers we recognize. And the idea that we can create an intelligence that will be like us. And we found that to be really, really, really difficult. A good example is natural language processing. The ability for a computer to hear what I'm saying from English words and translate it to what it should mean in a different language, right? There's a huge difference between me saying, I want to buy a pillow, and what that means in Spanish or German or whatever else, right? You could just take it and you can say, okay, so I is this, want is this, and just go through and translate it, but it doesn't mean that the person will get the concept of what you're saying on the other side. You may need to switch some of those words around to get the same meaning. And then obviously you start doing things like we do in America. Well, that's such a ripoff. Well, we know what it means, right? That I'm stealing from you, or that's too expensive, or probably the list of 6 or 7 things goes on, because there's something embedded in our thought process that we've heard that over and over again. And depending on the situation, I could be looking at the menu and go, that's such a ripoff. What am I talking about there? As opposed to standing in front of somebody and they say something to me and I say, that's such a ripoff. Did I mean that they stole the information? They ripped it off from someplace? Or the price is too high? Natural language processing showed us that, you know what? We got a lot of work to do on artificial intelligence because we're programmed to pick this up easily and they are not. But that's the process of trying to get a natural language processing, like chatbots, become more effective. And they're not bad. A lot of times, most of the time, when you hit some website, and you're like, I need help and I'm going to chat, you're not talking to a real person for quite a while until the chatbot just doesn't know what to do with you, right? Gaming and artificial intelligence. Expert systems, robotics, the field of robotics, self-driving cars, that's kind of a huge way, autonomous drones flying themselves. And honestly, self-driving cars will create a safer environment. Than most of the time they're making a better decision than we do. And then this technological singularity, boy, there's a lot of movies about that, but that's a hypothetical point, a point meaning it does not exist. It's hypothetical that the future of artificial intelligence will surpass human intelligence, and then that'll trigger an explosion in technology advancement and maybe our death. I personally don't think it's actually possible to do that, because I don't believe it's possible for us to create something smarter than we are. Now, you may say, oh, are computers smarter than we are? No, in many ways, they're incredibly dumb. I mean, why is it that I still have to drop down to a command line and type the command a certain way? They're incredibly stupid when it comes to that kind of thing. And we make it better through some artificial intelligence, but still that artificial intelligence does not even come close to somebody that's only capable of pushing shopping carts all day. That person has much more intelligence than our computers do. Just because they can pull up a fact from 1952 and we can't, doesn't mean that they're smarter. Right? So anyway, that's stuff on artificial intelligence, big data analytics. This is really where you see a ton of artificial intelligence. We don't know what to do. We got so much data. James McBride bought this at Walmart. They tracked at Walmart. They know who you are and who I am because they've got a credit card associated with that. And they know when you come in and when you leave and all of that. But how does that benefit them at all? And so big data analytics is diving into, oh, I got a ton of info. Can I pull out anything that helps? Another big one is weather sensors. We understand so much more about the weather because of AI in big data analytics. So neural networks here is really fascinating. It's really the idea of trying to build a computer that represents what our brains do, because we can watch our brain activity and see that. I'll try to put a video out that talks about AI and neural networks. It's got some very interesting things in it and what it's supposing. The people that work in neural networks, they're really smart, get tons of money because they understand the human brain and they understand technology, and trying to mesh those two together is that's something else.